Hi, Soulful Mama. Perfectionism can hold us back from being our authentic selves and truly enjoying mom life. When we're able to shift from this place of perfectionism, we also give our kids the beautiful gift of knowing that it's okay for them to live authentically as well, and knowing that they are worthy just as they are. Today, I am joined by Justine Cochrane, a mama who has struggled with perfectionism and anxiety. She shares her journey as well as helpful and actionable tips on how you can manage anxiety and overcome perfectionism. If you have ever felt anxious or like you set unrealistic and unattainable goals for yourself, you are going to want to listen in on this episode of the Soul Care Mom podcast. Hi there, Soulful Mama. Welcome to the Soul Care Mom podcast. I'm Catherine Wilde of soulcaremom.com. I'm a mom of 3 amazing kids, a soul care mom coach, and a yoga and meditation teacher. I've helped hundreds of women, and I'm here to help you feel calm and find your unshakable confidence as a mom. If you're ready to stop living in survival mode and you're ready to drop the mom guilt and overwhelm, this podcast is for you. Think of this as a lunch date with a girlfriend. Grab a cup of tea and get cozy. It's time to get honest and vulnerable and shift the traditional mindset around motherhood. Be sure to subscribe to be the first to know when new episodes are released. Get ready to grow and feel empowered as a mom. I'm here for you, Mama. Let's get started. Hi, Justine. I'm so excited to talk with you today. Thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
So I love the topic that we're going to dive into today. But before we jump into all of your amazing tips on overcoming perfectionism, could you share just a bit about your personal journey of your struggle with perfectionism and managing anxiety?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm a mom of 2. I have a 2 and a 4-year-old. And I really found my perfectionism started to pop up in those early years of motherhood. And I struggled with having really high expectations for myself and always wanting to get more done than it seemed like I had time to do. And that created a lot of anxiety for me. So it's something I work with clients on. It's something I've coached myself on. And I'm just so excited to be here today and talk all about perfectionism and procrastination and give you guys everything I have to help you deal with it.
Yes, I'm so excited. So for me, perfectionism means trying to be something that I'm not. It means I'm keeping myself from living in a state of ease and flow, trying to attain this sort of unattainable goal, right? And so it ends up, like you said, it causes me a lot of anxiety to live in that sort of state as well, because it feels like I'm just not good enough, right? I can't get all the things done. I can't do them perfectly. And so when I began to understand that, how much stress that was causing me, I started to be able to release that a little bit and show up from this more authentic place and in turn model that for my kids, because I want them to feel enough, right? Just as they are. With everything, there's a balance. And I love that you talk about how you find the strengths underneath your perfectionism. So can we talk a little bit about that and what that means?
Absolutely. Yeah. So I really think we have enough pressure as moms already. We don't need to be adding more pressure by overcoming perfectionism, right? I think that although perfectionism isn't a great thing, adding those additional layers of shame and guilt around it is just not helpful. So I really focus on leveraging the attributes that tend to come up for perfectionists and use those in a different way that's going to serve you better. So usually that's around having really high expectations for yourself, which can actually turn into a great sort of spark for evaluating. So when you take the emotion out of it and you take away oh, I wasn't good enough at this and this is why, and instead look at the systems and processes that you have in place and use that same critical eye to evaluate the more concrete things, that can be so valuable. Because we're willing to put the time in and we're willing to try and make things work, which can just make our family lives so much smoother. if we can find that balance and come from that space of like, how can I evaluate and make this better instead of I'm not doing it right, therefore it means something about me or my abilities. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I love that. I love shifting that perspective from, I'm doing this wrong, I'm failing at this, to, hey, what can I do to make this better? Hey, where are my strengths in this? I love that perspective.
Yeah, and the
Yeah.
same for procrastination. So I think that comes up a lot, right? Like we don't even want to get started because we feel like we're not going to be able to do it to the level that we want to do it, especially if we're working around kids' schedules and naps and all those things. So I think there, instead of like worried about getting started, focusing on the process, instead of getting stuck in that procrastination. So like I have an exercise where I ask clients to sort of think about what they need to stop doing, what they want to start doing, and what they want to continue doing to get the result that they want. And that can be a really simple way to break it down into those three things. So something to stop, something to start, and something to continue. If you're looking at getting started on something, but you're struggling with procrastination and even getting into that first step.
Yeah, those are great tips. I feel like procrastination and, perfectionism are really closely linked. A lot of times we don't even want to start because we have that fear of like, what if we don't do this right? There's so many layers there. I love those tips. Thank you.
Yeah.
So another thing that I think we as women and mothers often struggle with is people pleasing, and we're nurturing and we want to care for and help others, but finding that balance is important too, right? Like we can end up getting into this place of just saying yes to everything and everyone so we please everyone. Do you have any tips to help us shift back into balance and create more space for ourselves and self-care, and just finding the balance between that?
Absolutely. And I think what you said earlier about, thinking about what we're modeling for our kids is so critical when it comes to this one, because if we're showing them the way to sort of get value from the world or be valuable for the world is to say yes to everything, they're going to have a really big uphill battle, right? So I think that what I do for myself and what I ask my clients to do is think about why they're wanting to say yes. So are they looking for approval from somebody else? Do they think this is going to make them like a better parent in the school if they say yes to that opportunity? Or they're going to be seen as like a better spouse if they say yes to this thing with the in-laws? And just sort of be really critical about, why am I saying yes? What feeling am I trying to get by saying yes to this opportunity? And then evaluate if the trade-off's worth it. So could I get that somewhere else in my life just by spending time with my kids and having that connection? Is that going to make me seem like a better mom to myself? Or is spending time one-on-one with my husband going to make me feel like a better spouse? And just being really careful about how we're spending our time and resources when we're trying to create those feelings and seek approval. Because as we know, time is not unlimited, right? We can't just create more of it. So just being really careful and checking in with like, why am I saying yes? What do I want to feel from this sort of like transaction with time? And is that worth it for me right now? Because if you say no, that doesn't mean no forever, right? Your first year in elementary school, if you're not like the president of the PTA, doesn't mean you can't do that, right? Later on. So just gauging where you are and being realistic about your time, and then also really evaluating like why you're saying yes and what you're looking for in the process.
I love that. Yeah, that's a beautiful way to look at it. I also kind of think of it like, when you are saying yes to something, you're also saying no to something. And a lot of times when you're saying yes to the outside world, you're saying no to something that you need and, something for you. So that's a great way to find that balance. So often this idea of perfectionism and needing to be perfect comes from the outer messages that we get all the way from our childhood, right? And culture and social media. And these things have kind of created this picture or this belief of what women and mothers should look like, how we should behave. And as moms, we have a million thoughts running through our minds all the time. How can we start to notice what thoughts and beliefs aren't serving us, and ways of thinking that are keeping us from embracing our worthiness and just loving ourselves for the amazing humans we are? How can we shift from that to a more empowering place of self-love?
Yeah, for sure. So it's really interesting because I think we have like 60,000 thoughts a day. And I feel like for moms, that must be higher, right? Because we're like, we got to drop off people here. We got to return library books. Like there's a lot of things to manage. And something that I do as a daily practice is what I call thought work. So when I wake up in the morning, I literally clean my brain out. So I write every single thought I have down on a piece of paper. And I think of it a lot as like tidying up my brain, just like I would tidy up a house, right? So I'm going to put everything down on paper there and then just take like a critical eye and look back and be like, these things might be true or they might not be true, but are they serving me? And from that space, with my clear brain and just that space that I've created in my mind, being really intentional about what I'm choosing to put back into my brain for the day. So, thoughts that might serve me are like, this is a fresh day, this is a fresh start. I get to choose how I want to spend my time today. I'm going to be intentional with how I want to focus on my kids, how I'm going to connect with them. I'm going to take the time to write a to-do list because that makes me feel less stressed. But just being really focused on how we are spending our brain space, because we don't have to accept every thought that pops up and we don't have to take it at face value. And sometimes creating like the physical space between words on paper and being able to see them is just enough of a distance to create a little bit more of that calmness and just intentionality that I think a lot of us are looking for.
Yes. Oh, I love that. Yes, for me, writing things down does help me to like let it go a little bit. I'm like, okay, it's there. I don't have to keep thinking about it. And I love that you said that it helps you to see or to not have to believe every thought. Like, because a lot of our thoughts aren't based in fact, like we can shift and change those. And so those are beautiful. I love that you were talking about doing that first thing in the morning. I think having routines, flexible ones as moms for sure, but routines help to reduce stress and anxiety for both ourselves and for our kids, and especially morning routines. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on routines. And do you have a morning routine and what do you do?
I do. I 100% agree. I think routines are beautiful ways to create like space in our lives and be able to really focus on what we want to put our attention on. So I have a morning routine and I love it. And I am a morning person, so I just want to like preface it with that. But I do usually wake up around 5, and I do that thought work first thing. And that doesn't take that long. That usually takes me about 15 minutes or so to empty out everything that I have in my brain. And then I really focus on like, where do I want my brain to be today? How do I want to be feeling? And what thoughts do I need to be having to feel that way? And I always do that with just like believable thoughts. Like I don't think, oh, I'm going to, love my body today if I'm having like a different like weight day or something like that, but just keeping it really realistic. And then once I've sort of done that thought work and I'm feeling like I'm in a really calm place, I do a quick meditation. And then I work on my business for a little bit before my kids wake up. So I'm a certified coach and I have a private practice. So answering client emails or just sort of checking in, that kind of stuff. And then I'll do a quick workout before my kids wake up. And they usually wake up around 6:30 or 7. And that way I just find like I get everything that I want to do for me done first. And that sends me up for such a positive place to go through the rest of my day. So I work 2 mornings a week in my practice coaching clients and then do some other business stuff around that. But the rest of the time I'm with my kids. And so it's very full on. I want to be focused on them, doing all the house things, running all the errands and stuff. But I feel just so empowered knowing I've taken the time for myself. I've got those things done first, and then I can carry on with the rest of my day. Some days it doesn't happen, right? Some days it doesn't happen, but that is what I aim for. Yeah.
I agree. That morning time, if you can do it, it's really quiet and peaceful, and doing those things for yourself fills your cup so that you can be present and, hold space for your kids during the day. I love that. So this journey of moving from perfectionism to a state of more ease and flow, it doesn't happen overnight, right? So if there's a mom listening right now and she is feeling anxious and overwhelmed with all of this, do you have any tips that she can put into practice to help her? What would you say where should she start?
Absolutely. The first thing I would say is like, there's nothing wrong with you if you're feeling that way. Like nothing has gone wrong. Nothing is broken. It's all going to be fine. Like I honestly believe that. I think that for a lot of women that deal with perfectionism and anxiety, they just haven't been taught the tools to really manage their mind so that they can think in a different way. So I think the first thing I would do is just really encourage her to keep an eye out for what she's thinking when she's feeling anxious, because usually that'll be a thought that's just happening on repeat and our brain's thinking it because it's comfortable. We know it, it's easy to have that synapse pattern and think that thought over and over again. So for me, that thought used to be, I don't have enough time. I would constantly think like I don't have enough time, whether I was working on something in my business or if I was doing something with my kids, I'd be like, we don't have enough time. We've got to get through this faster. We've got to get going. And that created a lot of anxiety for me. But when I was able to identify that thought as the main culprit, it was so empowering because when it popped up again, I'd be like, oh, you're back. Hello, nice to see you. We do actually have enough time here. I've taken the time to plan things out accordingly, so I know I have enough time. And even if we run over, it's all going to be okay, So I would really encourage her to try and identify the thought that's causing those feelings of like anxiety or overwhelm, and then just work to get to know that thought. Start looking for evidence to prove otherwise, and then just move on from there. But I think awareness is the first step in any of those processes.
For sure, yeah. All those thoughts we're having all the time, we're not aware of most of them. And so just becoming aware is definitely the first step. I love that. So we're always learning and growing on this journey, and you've had quite the journey. What would you, if you could go back in time, what would you share with yourself, with your younger self when you first became a mom?
That it's all going to be okay. And I think there's so much pressure, right, to do it right when you're a brand new mom, but it's such a learning curve. And I think every age is a learning curve, right? Each stage, you're going to learn something different. There's going to be different approaches that are needed. But I think that's the beauty of the motherhood journey. And being able to walk through that process and have the ups and downs, that's what we're here for, right? And to have that contrast and really embrace it, because, we wouldn't be able to experience the good if we didn't know what the bad was like, and vice versa. So just as much as you can, try and be present and enjoy the moments and just focus on the process, not on perfection.
I love that. One step at a time, right? Yes. Yeah. Thank you so much. I have loved this conversation. Can you let us know where we can find you online?
Absolutely. Yes. You can just find me on JustineCochrane.com. That's JustineCochrane.com. And I've got tons of free resources on there that you can check out if you are struggling with perfectionism and you just want a little bit of help to create an awareness and get moving into a freer place.
Oh, thank you so much. I'll share the link to that in the show notes. And is there anything else that you'd like to share with us?
I just thank you so much for having me on. I love what you're doing. And I just think self-care and all those type of balance sort of elements in motherhood just helps us all be better. So I love the community that you have and how you support that with women. It's amazing.
Oh, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your story, your tips with us today. Thanks for joining me, Mama. I'm over here smiling from ear to ear and giving you a big virtual hug. I love spending this time with you. You are amazing for showing up and carving out this space to nourish your soul. If you are loving the Soul Care Mom podcast, be sure to subscribe and leave a review. And if you are ready to start your mornings feeling calm and energized, get the Kickstart Your Calm Morning Guide, a self-care morning ritual for moms, as a free gift when you join the Soul Care Mom community. Head over to soulcaremom.com/kickstart and enter your email address to get your free gift and start feeling like a calm mom today. Sending you so much love, Mama.